We haven't talked too much about the lips and their general makeup in this video series yet. We've spoken a lot about eyes because the eyes require singular attention when we decide to pursue them. The lips tend to happen slowly over time, and therefore are sometimes a little forgotten. However, they are certainly just as important as anything else, and they are so often treated way too simply, in my opinion. To start with, you will see me getting low and trying to deal with the curvature of the lips from the center line heading outwards towards the corners. Just as observing certain things from above helps, observing the lips from below really help when it comes to properly understanding how they curve back in space, from the center line at their peak towards the corners of the mouth. The high point of the lips at the center line and the corners of the mouth have both been set in height and depth, so connecting the two shouldn't be too much of an issue. The width we've been creeping towards, but we've already gotten fairly close to the width we need at this point, though we are going to adjust that somewhat later in the video as well. You'll notice the movement we find in the lips here drawn in red. This red line separates the upper and lower lip, it's where the lips meet, but it also provides us with a lot of useful information that we should take note of. Notice how the upper lip descends in the middle? This fullness here makes up the center of the upper lip and creates this descent. Notice how the lower lips ascend on both sides here, to the right and left of the center. Another two forms are causing this to happen. Towards the outside corners of the mouth, the upper lip again takes over and pushes down on the lower lip. And another two forms are the cause of this. These forms are fairly universal. Almost everyone has them to a lesser or to a greater degree. We can see them here on Stefano, even though his lips are fairly thin. Even if we don't want these features to stand out too much, we want them to be present, and knowing that they are there to begin with means that we will be able to see them no matter who our model is. Not knowing they are there is very likely going to lead you to simply make lips without considering these volumes to begin with, especially when we are using a model where these features are not as present as they might be on a young female with thick lips, for example. You can think of the general shape of the lips as a turning ribbon. In the middle, we are facing the flat side of the ribbon. Well, not exactly, as the ribbon is at the center already slightly facing downwards in the case of the upper lip, and upwards in the case of the lower lip. Towards the corners of the mouth, the ribbon begins to rotate so that we are looking at the side of it instead of the front. The upper and lower lip has different rates of spiraling into the corners of the mouth. The upper lip spirals faster and more completely than the lower lip in most cases, which is why we can see more color in the lower lip than the upper lip. A big issue I see with the way people sculpt lips are how sharp they make them on the basis of what is very likely a misunderstanding happening because of the difference in color between the skin and the lips. The lips, as they transition from the lip color, which is usually some sort of red color, to the skin color, this transition needs to be very soft, much softer than you might expect. Don't make these edges too sharp, they will never look natural this way. The same thing goes for the filtral groove and columns above the lips leading into the nose. These are so often portrayed way too sharp, and this is not going to convince anyone. Always lean on the side of softer rather than sharp. The filtral columns are these broad, soft turning shapes, not sharp peaks. The last thing we should consider is the vermilion border, which is the zone of transition between the color of the lip and the skin color. At this transition, we don't merely find a transition in color, but a form that runs along this zone of transition. Kind of a tubular form running along the edge of the lips, and this is the vermilion border. It's like a tubular shape running along the edge, creating a lighter value along this edge, which you will often find on many people. Missing out on this can mean missing out on a lot of variety of the planes and ending up with a much simpler version of the lips than we would like to. Lips are very complex with a lot of different shapes and forms that are very subtle and should not be missed. And should they be missed, we are likely not going to get our work to where we would like it to go.